All right, looks like it's, now we're ready. All right, looks like 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the regularly scheduled August meeting of the USD 417 Board of Ed to order. Get to the top of my page here. Additions, approval of agenda. It's on there. Anybody have anything they'd like to add or take off?
Mr. President, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Yeah. Introductions, looks like we all should know each other in the room this evening. I think I'll forego that. Open forum. Anybody here to talk to the board about anything? All right, moving on to the consent agenda. That tonight is approved minutes of the previous meeting, financial reports, pay bills for a large amount of $1,018,484.03. Donations and gifts, approved the 24-25 licensed staff handbooks. Personnel, I'm not going to read through all that. You'll have that in front of you. Several employments, 1 resignation, 3 retirements. So anything people would like to see taken off of that?
Mr. President, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Director reports. Anybody have anything further? I'll start with people in the room. Mr. Weber, Mrs. Harris, Mrs. Green, Mrs. Guerra, Mrs. Weeks, Mr. Esslinger.
Yeah, I'll add a few things, so get used to that. Just a real quick, and that's what I was trying to do real fast on my math. Just wanted to give you kind of an enrollment update real fast. District total enrollments right now, as of sometime this afternoon, it's looking about 763. At the end of school last year, I just ran some numbers. We were in the 740 to 745 range. Prairie Heights right now currently is looking at about 78 kids, and there could be a difference in some numbers just based on what's going on. But Council Grove Elementary School is about 318, and then 7th, 8th grades about 118, and 9-12 is 245. So there's some other numbers that play into that number at Council Grove Junior Senior High School. So we're about 367, but if you add those two numbers together, you don't get 367, and I know that. So like Prairie Heights last year finished at about 74. 318 at Council Grove Junior Senior High School. I don't have the breakdown, I can do that math for you, but it was 64 and 55 at the 7th and 8th grade. So that kind of gives us that. And then elementary school at Council Grove was 348. So.
I think the first number for Council Grove Elementary that you gave is not including pre-K.
Is it not?
That 318 is way low, because we're actually up from last year.
Okay. I can double check it and
Does
stuff.
include either PK or E.
I think we're up from last year, like 5 or 6 at least.
So,
Look at that.
yeah, we can double check that. Was there any questions, anything that I provided? Around the academic stuff, we're looking at a My Education data platform. We're actually gonna meet tomorrow as a team and kind of talk about that demo. It's a really intuitive program that provides parents, teachers, everything, a lot of really good information in real time. I always tell everyone, it explains test data scores and all of those fun things better than I could sitting across the table as a teacher at a parent-teacher conferences, because it puts it in parent-friendly language that you can understand and what these scores mean and for your children and different things like that. So, and it provides constant, it's syncing every night, and it's providing constant updates with everything. So possibly looking at that. And then we're starting KISA 2.0, the new accreditation process from KSDE. And so We have a meeting here next month. It's our initial check-in to prepare for a bigger meeting in November. And so our KISA representative from KSD will be here in September, and we'll kind of just go over some things. And then we have to go to Hutch to meet with other districts for our peer-to-peer day. So we'll drive down to Hutch and meet with 3 other school districts on that day in November and have some discussions and things, so. Real quick, facilities, if there's nothing there. One thing today, we had a DCS came out based on our facility needs assessment that was done a few years ago. They came out a couple of weeks ago, looked at some roofs, concern areas that Tom had and different things. And so they came out today, we met with them today and kind of gave us some numbers. They brought a roofer out to look at that stuff also, and so they could put numbers together. And so now we have some rough numbers. I'm gonna talk with Tom. He was busy today, so he wasn't able to be at that meeting. So we'll visit with Tom and kind of look at some of those things. Some of the roof areas are also affected by the hailstorm that we're still working through with EMC. They pulled the wrong policy numbers essentially, as I'll leave it that simple. And so Tim's working with them to get the right stuff pulled so that we have the right numbers and everything like that. So we met with Tim on Friday and they're working on getting that all cleaned up so we have the actual right numbers. So that number can play into some of these things that DCS is proposing, and then we can look at that from there, so. Around just financials, we're part of the Flint Hill Cooperative for our SPED. They help manage and run our SPED. We're getting hit with an 18.5% assessment increase from them, which is a lot. I might have had a mild heart attack when I got that email. And so I haven't ever seen that before. I talked with them. I shared some of the things that they shared with me around the increase in assessment. We are getting more SPED funding. I think that's confusing things from what I'm hearing around the state as well, as the legislature did, but we're not getting that payment till February. It's coming to the school district and so that'll help offset that sum. It's not gonna help offset it all, but it'll help offset that sum. Pretty much what I was told, the big thing is kind of number 3 there in that report that I provided you is they're not necessarily saying we're over-identifying, but our usage of things is up. And so their recommendation was to make sure that SPED recommendations are tier 4, tier 5, not our tier 3 levels, and that we're working on interventions in tier 3 and not working on looking at SPED recommendations and things like that. And so, I just wanted to share that because that is a dollar amount, and we still have a lot of, that's the first dollar amount in our general fund that leaves the door. And so that $600,000+ just comes right out of our general fund and goes straight away. And that's the importance when you hear people talking about fully funding SPED. That's the importance of that, because if we didn't have to send that money to the cooperative, that money would stay here to go to all students, all staff, everything. But we have to, by law, that has to leave our doors as soon as we, and it's the money, it's our money. It's not SPED flow through money. There's that money as well. Just wanted to make you aware there. There's some more financial reports that will get your way. And on the back of that, or on the page, you can see down there, FY23, our assessment was $456,000, FY24, $533,000, and then this year, $631,000. So that's how the SPED assessments have went up there. So I'm asking lots of questions of our cooperative. They probably aren't, I'm probably not like on the top of their list right now. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand some things of how we operate and why things are the way they are and different things like that, so that I can make the appropriate things. So, and then if you didn't know, there was an election. So, and now we'll go to a general election. The state school board will be one to watch. One vote. If you don't pay attention to our state school board, one vote could flip Kansas education policy moving forward, and could have a lot of ripple effects and things and stuff. And so, So there's a lot of things for people to be paying attention to in that aspect, and there's, I think, 5 members up for election, and just one of those could change the direction of what we could be talking about. KISA 3.0, 4.0, or no KISA at all, or, whatever, based on the election. So, stay tuned.
Okay. Anybody have any follow-up questions for anybody in the room? Based on the info we've got.
I just have a comment question. The meals, the meal magic, I've had some parents reach out and says it's locked. They can't add to the account. Thought I'd just mention that.
Becky mentioned something this morning that she
Okay.
was still having issues, and so I don't know if it's the same issue you're
Probably.
discussing, but she was troubleshooting on her side what was going on.
I
so.
figure hasn't started,
Yeah,
just trying to get.
so hopefully it's the same issue that
Probably.
you've been told.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass it on.
Yep, we'll work on it.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the discussion items. The very first one is the policy review of JA, JB, JBC, and JBCA. Mr. Esslinger, anything you'd like to say to those?
You just want me to kind of talk about, so you're gonna start seeing these. We're gonna start doing policy review every month. And we started with the most important thing, why you're here, students. This is from the student section of policy. We didn't go in order. And so you're gonna get 3 or 4 every month. The first 3 this time were really short, so we threw a 4th in there that's a little bit longer. So what you need to do is review those. If you have questions or anything, be ready to bring those up. And then in September, you would approve these policies, and we'll have 4 new policies, 3 or 4 new policies for you to review. And we'll just keep doing that every month. And so you'll approve the ones that you saw the month before, and you'll get new ones to look at as we just work through our policy book. We know that KSB is doing a policy update of audit for the district. Amber reached out, I think in October, they're hoping to have that completed. So what we'll do is when they do that, we will look back at the ones that you've already went through and see if they made any suggestions or changes on there, and if they did, we would bring those to you. But I think this is a way to keep you engaged with policy, which is one of your tasks, and for you to get it in bite-sized chunks versus twice a year, like, oh, hey, here's all the recommendations, here's 200 pages, good luck, right? And so this gives you a little bit more ability to take that on, so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about the ones that have been presented tonight? Like, again, we won't do anything tonight, but we'll approve those again next month and start over. So. All right, moving on. The next item for discussion is building needs assessment, state assessment scores.
Will you take one and pass them around?
Do you want this pulled up?
Yeah, you want to start with your building needs assessment? Just kind of share, I know you had it in the report and everything, but kind of just overview your building needs assessment score. Mrs. Brummer will be here later. I told her when she got here, I'd jump in unless, are you here to speak on her, okay.
She should be here,
Okay.
you know, she wanted
So
to.
she's being a parent right now.
Okay.
And so she'll jump in, and then Mrs. Gear and I will take on the state assessment part of it.
Okay.
So,
Well, as I said in the report, one thing that's important to note about this report is I inherited this report that was done in the spring. And so highlights from it is our attendance is really good at Prairie Heights. We have very few chronic absenteeism students. The things that stuck out for me from this report is that due to our size, the building wanted to note that we have only part-time services for things like a nurse, for our counselor, and I think the other one was the instructional coach pieces. The other thing that stuck out was that all of our students have access, and if you'll scroll down to the educational capacities here, the staff members felt strongly that the students in our building are provided sufficient opportunities to accomplish and be exposed to these types of educational capacities. We don't feel that we have any curriculum needs at this time because the strategic plan that is that year-to-year, long-range plan for how we review and adopt curriculum, we feel that that's strong. That process works really well, and the curriculum resources are vetted by teachers before we put those into practice. And what's the other section? Is there another section after that? No glaring facility needs at this time. Our maintenance and custodial staff keep a really nice, do a really nice job maintaining our facility. Now, I haven't studied the facilities plan that I think he referenced a little bit ago regarding the major systems like the roofs and the heating and the air and the electrical and stuff. But all in all, people are proud of our facility and the upkeep that it has. One area for growth is community relation and really building our relationships with the communities and supporting the families within our buildings.
Any questions for Mrs. Harris? It's always good to just get in on the end of building needs assessments and you have to take that. So good job, Mrs. Harris. So, yeah. Obviously, Mr. Dornbos is doing open house tonight and stuff, so I talked to him a little bit. Just his two things from their building needs assessment was really continuing to support the work that's been going on around the SEL for the students and stuff. We know how important that is. And then academic facilities within that building, and then helping create some academic facilities that help students and staff and everything. So those were the two things out of their building needs assessment. So, and like I said, when Mrs. Bremer gets here, we'll let her talk and share a little bit about hers and stuff, so we can jump to state assessments. Now, if you remember, and in your board packet, you as a board have to answer 3 questions by law. And those 3 questions are in your packet at the bottom of this. If you want to jump down to those real quick below, right? Yep, right here we go. You have to do that by building, so you have 3 buildings. I double checked and made sure that the junior, senior high school is categorized as one building. It is, and so I was able to find that answer this year without any help. So, and so you have 3 buildings. Your answers can be the same. We can help you with those answers. I have some things for you. I didn't want to give those to you though, because I don't want to fill your minds with other people's words. I want you to be able to look and think about that, and as a board, and if we get really good in this, and we're going to change our building needs assessment process this year, and the way that works, and so, but if we get really good at this, then our building needs assessment and other things help align and guide, and you really see those conversations, you really see dollars flowing in those directions and stuff. We're not just cookie cuttering every year finances and saying, well, this is because from year to year, those things change based on what is needed and stuff. And so, but your answers, this answer is only about state assessment scores. It's not about building needs. You got to talk about building needs assessments and things like that. And next year, you'll start getting this in May and June and July, and you'll get parts of it as we go through and stuff. But this is strictly about state assessments, and you see that the questions are the barriers that must be overcome for each student to achieve grade level proficiency on assessments, the budget actions that should be taken to address and remove those barriers, and the amount of time the board estimates it will take for each student to achieve grade level proficiency on state assessments if the budget actions would be implemented. I heard a little sarcasm in there. But those are the questions that we are tasked to answer. So if you go back up to those charts right above there. Down. Mrs. Gear put some things in there if she wants to talk about this. This is Mr. Esslinger's own special chart that he makes because he likes colors, and it makes it a lot easier in numbers to be able to look and see things. So this is also not last year's state assessments that you're supposed to be talking about. You're supposed to make budget decisions based on 2023 state assessments, not the actual data, the current data, but actual few years back. So that's how we roll too. And so we will follow those laws and those rules and have those conversations, so.
I thought maybe it was a typo.
No.
I really did.
Yeah, I actually,
No.
I was like, well, maybe
I
it's
bet
an
that-
example.
No, you can thank the state legislature for that one.
That is the world we live in. So,
Before we jump into looking at this, which I do have to give him credit, this is his fancy table, I like it though, I like it. So, but to really understand what these levels mean, the handout is really helpful in talking about what those levels actually mean. So, when we're talking at grade level, a student's ability to understand and use the skills and knowledge, a level 1 shows limited ability, so I underline these words every time. So level 1, I underline limited, they have a limited ability. And if they make it to level 2, they have a basic ability. If they make it to level 3, they have an effective ability to understand and use the skills. And then at level 4 is an excellent. So really, the state in the last couple of years has pushed level 2 as really, like, we need everyone to be at a basic ability. If we have people at a level 1, with that limited ability, we really need to focus in and try to move them up. So the table at the top has our total numbers in each, and it actually breaks these down into, are they a high level or a low level, level 1? Are they a low level or high level, level 2? So this actually has 8 different levels, which makes it even more confusing for you guys.
but at the same time, and we're gonna talk over each other, and that's fine, because we didn't practice. But the power of this and breaking it into 8 levels is before you just had 4 levels. And so you were like, well, where are they at within that? You get the numbers on the kid and you're like, where are they at? So like, if you look at high level 1, we have 102 kids in high level 1. We're right there to push 100, like if we could get half of those kids to move to low level 2, like that's a huge thing. And we're right there and we can identify a lot easier what that takes and what needs to happen to move those kids versus just looking at everybody in level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, right? And so you're able to, teachers in my experience love this because they can actually, it feels like this is something, once again, that they can take a bite of and they can like, oh, it's, if I'm teaching 5th grade, oh, it's, 13 kids. It's like, oh, that's manageable, right? Whereas it's looking at low level, what's level 1? So yeah, and we're gonna give you this last year's data also. We just didn't need to get things muddy tonight with having those data points and stuff and everything. And we'll have further back historical data for you to be able to look at with these charts and stuff and everything. So these are your the math state assessments, and so you can see there. So, if you're just a color person, you're just looking at it and going, we don't want to see any of that brighter red, right? And so 6th grade in 2023 didn't have anybody in low level 1, right? And we had we didn't have a lot of kids in low level 1 in math in 2023 when you just look at it,
CLA.
right?
So I switched to.
So,
So I also like to look at, look how many are in this purple. We'll go back up to math. Look at this. Look at this here. Like, we've got a lot of really high performing kids too, so looking at both ends. We have a lot of room to grow and we have a lot of room to celebrate our success. Look at this 7th, I wish every grade could look at like this right here. So that's an amazing, very little red, a lot of green, a lot of blue, a lot of purple. So,
but this becomes a lot bite-sized. Just being able to look at that and be like, okay, where are we at? What do we need to do? Right, we gotta get these low level 1 kids. And there's actually charts within KSD we can click on and we can see those kids. Who are those kids? And so we can then identify and look, and then we can take that look and we can go and look at their fast bridge stuff. We can go look at their other things and be like, okay, how do we help them continue to move forward? with that data.
I got a
So,
question.
Yep.
So say like you have seventh grade that has very few load levels. So then what do you do in reference to, let's look at third grade, then they have a high number of low levels. Does this mean that once the curriculum's working for one grade and it's not working for another grade, or do you have to basically then go in and cater curriculum to each grade level based on their state assessments to get them in a better place?
I actually track this different ways, so I track, like, I look at third grade over time, just third grade, every year, third grade, and then I look at that class and watch them as third graders, as fourth graders, as fifth graders. So I try to track it different ways, because sometimes it's a class, like we just have a really high performing class or a really low performing, sometimes there's that. Sometimes it is just every year it's fifth grade, or every year it's seventh grade. So that's where we have to kind of watch it over some time, and this doesn't show that obviously, but I have
I
another
think,
chart.
Jay, you also need to remember those kids were kindergartners in 2020.
I was just gonna mention that.
Yeah, I know we've done stuff to do like
That's what I was.
remedial stuff like that for
Yeah.
COVID as well. I know they did like a reach back program where they went back and taught basic skills and it was very successful. But that's what I'm getting at is if you identify the problem for each grade, then you can go back and kind of figure out a way to fix that problem. And that's kind of like what you're tracking then, right?
it's also the first time those kids are taking state assessments in
correct.
third grade, so you have to think about that, like, and so did we practice, did we do the interns, right? They're changing the interns, so I think there's gonna be a lot more validity in teachers doing the interim assessments in the fall, because they're actually changing those to help give the teachers data and information of what the kids need to work on for the spring assessment. The interns used to be just a practice test, and so at third grade, it makes a lot of sense to give them because they can learn what all the tools are and how to use it and everything, but after that, it's like, it's a waste of time essentially. Now that's changing, but yeah, there's a lot of things to look at.
I mean, sixth grade also has sixth and fourth grade has a high number of high, low, or whatever it is, so.
I was gonna ask if you had had time yet to compare the last few years on the colored data, cause that third through sixth are the classes that we've talked about before and how they were affected by COVID, and you can see, I mean, third through sixth have a lot of red in them. Are they making progress still to get?
Some,
Yeah, we'll get you that data, like she has it, she does, Mrs. Gear does a great job with cohort tracking. So she has a chart that's, like she said, that third grade class, those 10th graders, she has a chart, I don't know, it might be, but I think you
No,
do.
they have-
She has a chart that tracks those 10th graders from the first time they took it till their 10th grade year. So we can show you that and you can kind of see how that progresses, and that helps, those are conversations. That's one of our focuses with the admin team this year, is to making sure at the district level, we're having these big higher level conversations about data and what's going on, that those conversations just aren't taking place inside classrooms or inside PLCs at the building level. They need to happen there, they have to happen there. But we as a team also need to be having some of these conversations and looking at trends over time and different things like that. And so, we have a new math adoption.
that's what I was just getting ready to say.
it's the same-
The other thing that, to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, is if you scroll to our ELA scores, they're not as great. We just did a resource adoption with this. So we're hoping that the 24 results are a little better in the 25, and this year we're implementing that new math resource that you all approved last spring. We just had training on both of them today. So hopefully getting newer, updated resources in all of these grade levels will help as well. Because we knew ELA resources were outdated and we definitely needed those, so.
How
this
many
is our-
years is the curriculum for? We went over it, but I forgot. Like, there's each one's like a 7-year staggered period, like where it's, this year, the math curriculum we have is for the next 7 years, right?
Correct.
And then, like what English is next, the next one in a
social
row,
studies will
social
be-
studies, and then
yeah.
like, so there's a 7-year time frame.
Yes, we just did ELA 2 years ago, we did elementary last year, we implemented at the junior, senior high, so 7, 12, 6, 12. But the teachers also have to learn the new resource, so you won't see a year one like drastic change, cause they're learning the new resource as well, but now that we've had our ELA resource a couple years, we should start to see hopefully some better results with that as well.
Yeah, implementation science says year 3 is when you should start to really start taking stock. So for elementary ELA, this is year 3. So we're really hoping to see gains start rolling, snowballing this year. And if we don't start to see a lot of improvements in our ELA scores, that's when we might start talking about how we need to change our ELA instruction or look closer at our resource. I think we all feel strongly about our resources that we chose 2 years ago, and we're hoping that the results start coming through on ELA.
The other little thing I'll put in the back of your mind, the spring of 2025, so this spring, we take state assessments again, it's a brand new assessment. It is not going to align with what we've been taking. So that
So then we
throws
want-
that all,
Apples to oranges.
So then our historical data is basically moot then
It's
after that
historical.
point?
it's still gonna measure, it's still gonna measure state standards, so we're still gonna have state standards alignment. But it's a new assessment, so we'll see.
More like apples to oranges instead of apples, and I don't think, am I right? If I'm wrong, tell them, but we won't have data next year, right?
I think this is the year we'll set cut scores, so we might not get
Yeah,
any
so I don't
data
even
this
know
year.
that we'll see data out of this year's state assessment next year because they're setting cut scores this year with the assessment. So is what I believe I heard.
What does that mean?
So they have to set, okay, I'm sorry, this is new, like, so.
Get geeky and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So,
I'm all about it.
so one thing, so I talked today, I shared News at Noon, right, 417, if you didn't see that, News at Noon, if you got a better name, please share it. I shared out, like, I'm gonna be the biggest advocate for 417 in public education. So what people don't like to say when they start knocking our state assessment scores and things in the state of Kansas is that our cut scores are 2, I believe. I don't think we're 1 anymore, I think we're 2 now. We have, based on a national normed organization that looks at all cut scores on the state assessment scores, where you have the second highest cut scores in the country, right? So when someone wants to throw out, and I'm not saying this is great, we want everyone to exceed, we want everybody to go, but when somebody throws out that only 27% of our kids are at level 3 and 4 or whatever, accurate, you have the second highest cut scores in the state. You know, then they like to reference Missouri, or they want to reference Florida, or some other states. And if we dropped our cut scores to those states, like 57% of our students would be at level 3 and 4, if we had the same cut scores as those. So comparing apples to apples is not what people are doing when they're out there throwing public ed in Kansas under the bus, because nobody wants to say, well, they do have the second highest cut scores. So with our new state assessment, they have to set the new cut scores. What is level 4 gonna be? What is that cut score? There's a number that your kid gets. And so what is level 4 gonna be? What is level 3? What is level 2? What is level 1, right? The federal government says, and the state did this, we didn't, I don't necessarily know if this was the best move, but this is what we're living in the world we live in. But the federal government says, you have to have 2 levels below and then however many levels above. For some reason, we chose to go with 4, so that's what gives everybody easy access to, well, if you're in level 2 or level 1, you're failing. We're failing kids if they're in level 2 or level 1. That's why this document is so important that I passed out today, is because this is the actual definitions of level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 that we're given. And so that's what's important to have that. So now we're gonna set cut scores.
They'll also do like, they might toss out items that weren't
Yeah.
valid, thank you, I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not clear, not valid, so this is that year where everything kind of gets realigned.
And I don't wanna get into this topic, but this is different than the tiers that you talked about with sped funding. The levels are not.
Yeah, that's a local
tiers.
thing,
That's, okay.
Yeah, that's just our
Okay.
intervention levels based on
Okay.
local data and different things
So
that we
these
look
aren't,
at.
this tiers are not levels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're purely talking.
That's another thing that we will talk about at a district level. State assessment scores are great and they're standard aligned and we know they match, but we also have fast bridge screening data that we look at and we have and that's where the tiers come from. So we have a lot of different pieces and that's where we try to find, are we seeing the same thing on our screening data that we're seeing on state assessment data? Are we making, okay, now we have 2 pieces of data that are saying we have some concerns. Pot.
So,
Okay, so I don't think this is the same question she just asked.
it's okay.
Are sped scores do they they're in this as well?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
It's all good.
possibly the higher percentage we have that would affect the scores, am I understanding that right?
Our high percent of sped
Uh-huh.
student, possibly.
Possibly,
But you
but
have
it
to
depends
remember-
on what,
There's a lot of different ways that you can be
Factors.
identified. You can have a speech identification, you can
Okay.
have a gifted identification, so
sure,
maybe there's
that-
lots of different,
factors, lots of factors.
yeah.
Do they take the same state assessments, or do they take like, instead of
Most.
having 15 spelling questions, they do 5? Like, is it weighted a little different for the sped students?
Most students will take the general assessment. We do have a few that take a different type of assessment and it's a completely different, it's called a dynamic learning map and it's a different assessment altogether. So they wouldn't be.
Not that it impacts us here that much. We do have a few students and stuff, but like all of our non-English speaking students and stuff, there's no modifications. They take all the general assessments. And so in my previous district, if we got a student from Honduras in December that spoke no English and had very little, didn't matter. They're taking the state assessments in the spring. Good luck. So, yeah. So to kind of wrap this thing to an end here. So you don't have to have anything until next month officially on the books with these questions and things like that. But when you approve a budget, you're supposed to have these things all taken care of and stuff. As an outsider coming in, yes, like Mrs. Gear said, there's always opportunities to get better, right? I've said it before, we're never satisfied. But I will tell you, when you look at our state assessment scores and you look around the state and different things and stuff, we're not in a bad spot. Like, we are not in a bad spot. I'm not saying be satisfied, I'm not saying get comfortable, but you also need to take a little time to be proud about the spots that we're in and stuff. And we have pockets and we have different things and we're gonna work on those things and stuff, but overall. And you guys are a little bit different because you usually don't see math, like you guys have math, we were talking about this morning. You usually don't see math where math is at, and then your ELA actually be a little probably worse than math because the first out of educators' mouths when it's talking about state assessment scores is, well, the math is a reading test, so if your ELA assessment's low, then your math assessment's gonna be low because of math, and so we're a little flippy on that, but that's all right. So that just tells you that the math people got it going on, and got some good things going, so. Yeah.
We talked about that at our PTO and PAC meeting last week, but I feel really good about our resource adoption for math because we're not throwing away our old resource, we chose to do the upgraded version. So our state assessment scores and our FastBridge math scores are pretty darn good. So the teachers had a great day, honestly, all day long learning about Eureka Math Squared, and we're just excited to see what that does for our scores because we already have pretty darn good math scores and now we're gonna have the upgraded version of it, so it's just kinda gonna beef those up even more, I think.
So, you have those questions in your packet. I'm not gonna put you on the spot unless you wanna be on the spot. Sorry.
I don't care.
You, think about those, shoot me an email with your thoughts if you can. Think about those questions. Shoot me an email if you have questions. Then what I can do is take that and wordsmith it for you and then bring it back to you and say, hey, did we hit the right spot based on your thoughts around this and stuff? So, is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. So you have homework. You guys are going, him, not me.
You guys are going, why we approve this guy in February?
Yeah, really.
Maybe if we have time, to talk about that next week, while we're meeting with Brittany too, just as a reminder.
Yeah,
Do
we
that on our-
could, yeah, we could, yeah.
Which building?
If you give me, Patty, like just a week, like, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, like the 1st of September.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments around this? All right, so we will come back and hear from Mrs. Bremer when she gets here. But we'll move on and go to mission and core value statements.
Page 30, yes. Does this, yeah.
Sorry,
I'm gonna let you,
okay.
unless
This
Jamie wants
was,
to.
yeah, I was gonna say, Jamie, you wanna, so Jamie brought this, she sent this to us, this was something that was done, with Greenbush is what I've learned, as a board, I don't remember how many years ago. But this is what the board worked on to create, their mission and core value statements, which I think is really important and really good that the board took the time to do that. I think the question tonight, and tell me if I'm wrong, is does this still work? Is there any work that we need to do? Because one thing we've talked about is wanting to redesign, redecorate the boardroom. And so like if this is something you all are behind, then we want to create this and we want to keep this posted up. We want to put this up in the boardroom somewhere. We want the strategic plan posted up in the boardroom. We want those things put up here so that while you're here working, these things are in front of you and stuff.
I brought this up, so I'll own it and just say that I feel like it is really easy as Board of Education members, especially in a small town, to get out of our high level where we should be in that watchtower, get down in the weeds, putting out fires where we shouldn't be. And so I thought something as we're redecorating this room that kind of reminds us of what our focus is to help us reorient to those things would be really helpful. So I asked if as we were redecorating, we could maybe do something like that. And we did this, I don't remember when, sometime in 2021, I think, because we were really new,
Yeah.
really new when we did this. And so I would just like to see us use it. And if this isn't, I mean, our purpose is still the same, but the 7 of us are different. And so we may need to tweak this and update this a little bit, but I thought it would be nice to have it up somewhere instead of just sticking it in the back of your email and forgetting about it for the rest of the time. So I just, and I don't know that we necessarily need to have a big discussion about it, but just take a look at it, see if there's something that maybe doesn't fit as well. And maybe we need to talk about that and update that. And so I don't know, that's something maybe we could just email Tyson too. I don't wanna put anybody on the spot either, but we could also discuss it next week when we have our work session with Dr. Hart. So I, just a thought, I'm also, if everybody thinks it's a bad idea, I'm okay with that too. I just wanted to bring it up, because I think sometimes being able to reorient yourself as to what we're doing is helpful.
Yeah, I don't see a problem hanging it up. And again, it's a working document, so if we ever wanna change it, it's ours, we can update it, tweak it as we see fit. So if you see something in there, let us know and we'll get that updated. But anybody opposed to having it hanging in the room? Okay. All right, we'll move on then to strategic plan. Seen it?
Yeah.
Just, I'll let you go.
No, once again, this is just coming back, we dug this out, and so I've been sharing it with you. And we need to know, I need to know, is this our guide still? Because this is what we should be working towards, right? Things that we talk about, and so there's things that have to happen in a board meeting that don't come aligned to this strategic plan, but those should be few and far between. The things that we work on and that guide should be connected to this strategic plan. And so, does this strategic plan still fit that in what we're doing, right? And that's really it, because then that helps me work with our admin team, our leadership team on our focuses. Are the things we're doing in our buildings aligned to our strategic plan? Are we working towards accomplishing what are our goals with our strategic plan? I'm a big 4 disciplines of execution person. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. There's a business version and education version. But 4DXing the strategic plan where you set yearly goals. This is a 5-year plan, but where you set yearly goals within the plan of what you're going to accomplish. Because a lot of people will set 27 goals in a strategic plan, and then 5 years later, they dust it off and they're like, well, did we make any progress on any of those 27 we wrote down 5 years ago? And everybody's like, do we even know where it's at and stuff? And so when you have that in front of you and you're constantly talking on it, you're setting goals and you're working on it, hopefully you're seeing progress on it, right? So it's kind of like the last thing, is this where we're wanting to go? Because if it is, then this helps me start working on some things and guiding some things.
Do you have any thoughts on that? I think it's still probably a pretty good document. I don't know if we made a lot of headway with
And I
it,
think
but
most of us sat in the room on those committees and did that, so.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything that was,
I reread through it and I
that I
still
felt
agree
like I had
with
to put a
all
line through. That's right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All looked pretty good.
That helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, update on the 24-25 budget.
Still finalizing a few things, it's pretty much finalized. You made a motion in July because you had to, because of the R&R, and you set an R&R hearing and a budget hearing date in September. At that point, we had a special session that changed some things that still hadn't been finalized. County clerks had to resend things out after the date that it was set because of that. And so we were making our best guesstimate, and we want to be safe than sorry, so that's why you voted to exceed the revenue neutral rate. So we will have that revenue neutral rate hearing in September, and we will have that budget hearing. Can 99.9% guarantee you that our revenue neutral rate hearing will be to tell you that we're not exceeding the revenue neutral rate. So we will be under the revenue neutral rate this year. More than likely, it's looking like about 3 mils. And that's the overall rate there. I provided a document for you inside your board packet that shows the impact of that on the residential side on a $100,000 home, $200,000 home, $300,000 home. With the left side of that document is the current or last year's mill rates, and the right side of that document is what we're looking at proposing mill rates, and so you can see that pretty easily there and what that looks like. So I don't think anybody's gonna get upset about it being under the R&R, but I don't like to assume things, so. But still just a lot of work in looking at things, and you had an assessed valuation of about $2 million go up, and different things like that, and then where we're at in some places and stuff, so. Any questions or anything? So you're gonna be the heroes of the town in September, so be ready. They might throw a parade, I don't know how things work here. Yeah.
If they do, we'll give you all the credit.
Now, Bryce been working hard too, so yeah.
All right, any questions about that? All right, if not, looks like the next thing on the agenda is an executive session for negotiations. How long do you think we need for
I
that?
got it.
Okay,
Mr. President, I move we go into an executive session to discuss the latest proposal from our teachers pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under COMA with Mr. Esslinger, the board, and Mrs. Weeks for 20 minutes.
Second.
all right, been moved and seconded. We have a 20-minute executive session around negotiations. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed?
You got in traffic, so you don't have to keep doing.
All right, so we're back in open session. I've got to be a little more patient with that recording. But right now, we're going to take a 5-minute break, so we will be back into open session at 7:15.
Do you need to?
I don't need a motion for that, do I?
No,
All right, 7:15, we'll be back in open session. I think we're going to have another executive session.
Mr. President, I move we go into executive session to discuss the latest proposal for negotiations pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under COMA with the board, Mr. Esslinger and Mrs. Weeks for 10 minutes.
I'll second Amber.
Been moved and seconded, we have a 10-minute executive session around the negotiations. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? 7:26. All right, well, we'll be back in open session. Our next item, it's an action item, is the building blocks lease. I think there's an overview of that in your packet. Do you want to paraphrase that a little bit for any reason?
Yeah, not a whole lot of changes. Had a really good meeting with them. The changes were done to help them budget better. There's no savings or anything to building blocks or anything like that. It's for them to be able to budget over the 12 months better. It's no different than you taking the average of your electric bill and with the electric company and paying the same amount or close to the same amount every month and stuff. And so that's what they had talked about. So that was the major changes. They're working on some grants as well to look at, updating windows and some different things like that. Like I said, it's a really good group. I enjoyed our meeting with them. I think it's nice having them coming from a district where we ran a daycare as a district when I first got there, and we were losing about 70 grand a year on that daycare. And so we moved to a private provider running the daycare and not the school district running it, and having a building and space for that. And so having a group like this, I think that leads to some bigger conversations, maybe, and dreaming a little bit about how both sides partner to help develop and continue to grow early childhood from birth to 4 within our community, which business owners and everybody know is extremely important for employees and things like that. So, but yeah, this is just updating the lease. This will be reviewed every year now because of the change with the numbers. So we'll have to average every year. So the lease will have to be reviewed every year because of that change instead of a 2-year process. So.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move that we approve to renew the building blocks community childcare lease agreement.
I'll second.
All right, been moved and seconded that we approve the updated building blocks lease agreement. Any further discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? So passed. Approve the purchase of a bus.
Same thing, we're gonna get a 14-passenger bus here. Finding CDL drivers is continuing to be difficult. And we have a route to the Flint Hills that we have special education students as well as Flint Hill Technical College students that take that ride. And we've been able to do it with a van, but our numbers are growing. And so we're running out of space with a van, and we don't have CDL certified drivers to be able to put them on a bigger bus. So the 14-passenger bus allows non-CDL people to drive. So that also can then be used. I'm just throwing it out. I don't know our numbers of teams, but like you have a cross-country team that has 10 kids on it. Instead of, maybe having to take 2 vans or something like that, they could all jump on the bus. The coach is eligible without a CDL to be able to drive the bus, different things like that. So there's other uses that it can be used for as well. So.
Is it Minotaur or Minotaur? This says 2024 Minotaur non-CDL bus.
Yeah.
Minotaur? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so, yeah.
Funny name.
Yeah, we were lucky that they had it
Minotaur?
like there.
Mini.
It's
Minnie.
M-I-N-O.
Minnow, yeah.
Minotaur.
Yeah, I think it's Minnow, yeah. We're fortunate they had one. because we
I like Minotaur better.
So just to make sure we're
Mythology.
covered, is this on the state bid list? Okay.
Yeah, they're on the state bid list, yep.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
He was guarding the eggs.
All right, thoughts on the bus?
And we'd already budgeted or talked about adding a bus this year.
Yeah, we're good budgetary wise, yep. So I visited, that was after Matt came to me, my next stop was Bryce, and we talked about some finances and stuff and looked at things, and yeah, we're good. So, yeah.
Mr. President, I move we approve the purchase of a 2024 Minotaur non-CDL 14-passenger bus from Midwest Bus Sales, Inc. in the amount of $103,864.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the bus, the 2024 Minotaur non-CDL 14-passenger, $103,864. Any further discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? All right, RFP for a CD. I probably need to walk away. Maybe. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be good for you now.
Because they're opening these, right?
Yeah. You giving those out? Okay. So Bryce, extremely busy and realized that we had a CD at Citizens come due in July. And so we needed to get that taken care of. And so we put out an RFP to the 3 banks.
Here's half.
Two.
There's 2 sheets.
To Citizens, Farmers and Drovers, and Enterprise. And these are the 2 we got back. Citizens didn't submit one back, so we got Enterprise and Farmers and Drovers. And based on that, Bryce's recommendation is to go with Farmers and Drovers to reinvest that CD for, you can choose whichever. He said typically we've been doing 12 months. I don't know what the history is on this, but that's his recommendation, Farmers and Drovers, 12 months on that rate. So,
Madam Vice President, I move we approve the purchase of a certificate of deposit with Farmers and Drovers Bank for 5% interest rate for a period of 12 months. I don't think I see a dollar amount for what this CD, oh, there we are, in the amount of $211,840.34.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the certificate of a deposit in the amount of $211,840.34 with Farmers and Drovers Bank at the rate of 5% interest for 12 months. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those against, same sign. Motion carries. All right. We're grabbing Terry to get him back into the room. We are going to move on past item D this evening to item E, the 2024-2025 classified staff raise. And he's back.
yeah,
Go ahead.
so recommendation is a 3% raise. And you have that chart, that scale in there for the classified staff. So that shows what those moves would be, and then everybody would make that move for their 3% raise for classified staff this year.
Can we just remind everybody again who's on that list, who we consider classified staff? It's on the chart.
So it'd be like all the aides, secretaries, cooks, maintenance, custodians, and bus drivers.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move to approve 3% raise for classified staff for the FY 24-25.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve a 3% raise for classified staff for the fiscal year 24-25. Discussion on that item. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? The next one would be the administrator's raise.
Got documents for you. So you need to take one, you can pass one around. Sorry.
Can't wait to have technology.
That was, and obviously, that's just for your information, just kind of see is the next topic and stuff and everything. We do have exact personnel, I guess, so if there's questions or whatever, you could table this and then come back and ask questions, because we actually don't want to do that in open.
I do have questions about that, about the admin.
So you want to table that?
So
Do we want to just go into executive session to discuss the admin?
We can do that right now. Mr. President, I move we go into executive session to discuss personnel pursuant to the non-elected exemption under coma with the board and Mr. Esslinger for 10 minutes.
Start there. I'll
second that.
sorry.
We all, every time we go.
All right, moved and seconded that we have a 10-minute executive session. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All right, well, we're back in open session. To quickly go back into executive session.
Mr. President, I move we go into an executive session for 5 minutes to discuss personnel pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under coma with Mr. Esslinger and the board.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we have a 5-minute executive session for personnel with Mr. Esslinger and the board. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All right, we'll be back in open session. We're still on action item F, 2024-2025 Administrator's Raise.
Mr. President, I move we approve the 2024-2025 salary increases as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the 2024-2025 salary increases as presented. Discussion on that item? Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Approved job descriptions. Sent these out.
Yep, you've had these for a little while, these ones that you're looking at tonight, so I think these are really close. Without me being here longer and being able to work with these people and get a better feel, but I think these are really close, so it might be in a year we come back to these with some small tweaks and stuff. You're gonna get building principals, directors and things like that next, but this is once again kind of like policy. We're gonna slowly update our job descriptions over the next few months as we move forward, so.
Okay. Thoughts on those job descriptions?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the following job descriptions as presented. Would you like me to read them?
Nope. Unless you just have a hankering to.
Particularly.
Moved and seconded that we approve the job descriptions as presented. Discussions on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All right, next one is accept the Safe and Secure Schools Grant.
We didn't get near what they asked for. You're never gonna get in that grant until the legislature changes it or KSDE changes it. And they did ask this year if we would like to move to the Safe and Secures grant to more of a competitive grant. Right now, it's based kind of on your enrollment. Like, so they have a certain dollar amount and people apply, and based on your enrollment, you get a certain dollar amount. That's why we'll never get what we would ask for because of enrollment and stuff. And so instead of that, going to a competitive grant where everybody's not gonna get it. It's gonna be a competitive grant and they're gonna fulfill the best grants, and that's gonna be, and then it'll stop. I would be more in favor of that than this, because you're never gonna get anywhere with this right now at that level, so. But it's gone, it's been spent essentially, like, and so after you approve it, like, there was a plan in place before I got here for cameras and different things and radios on buses and different things. We're gonna have to chip it, this is a match anyways, and then we're gonna have to chip in a little extra to cover all of these things and stuff, but it's for a good cause, it's a good purpose and it's needed. And so we'll get that done and everything.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the fiscal year 25 Safe and Secure Schools Grant for $10,996.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we accept the 2025 Safe and Secure Schools Grant for $10,996. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? I don't like these where we're just accepting grants.
Yeah.
Accept the mental health intervention team grant.
I think everybody knows about that grant, right? I don't think I need to say a lot. Great grant. It's awesome that we're in the program, and I think there's a lot of support for that program, and so it's exciting to see it there.
Fantastic.
Mr. President, I move we accept the mental health intervention team grant for $66,010.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we accept the mental health intervention team grant for $66,010. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Let's just keep rolling.
Rolling.
Accept the 2024-2025 infectious disease management grant.
Same thing, you need anything?
I don't think so.
I don't like the requirement on our Facebook page that every time you go to, or our Facebook, our website, every time you go to our website, that it pops up like that, but I was told that's a requirement, so.
I was gonna actually ask about that.
Yeah, it's very.
It has to, they got clarification that you don't have to have it keep popping up, but the first time you go to it, it has to show up. So,
Mr. President, I move to accept the infectious disease management grant for $59,683.73.
second?
Moved and seconded to accept the infectious disease management grant for $59,683.73. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? The next one is the voting delegate for the 2024 Delegate Assembly. Looks like we have a volunteer. So I would move to appoint Jamie as the USD 417 voting delegate for the 2024 Delegate Assembly.
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint Jamie as the 417 voting delegate. Any discussion on that item? Thank you for your volunteerism.
You're welcome.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? And then Board of Ed meeting location change. I think this wrapped around maybe having a meeting at Prairie Heights sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
And then maybe even at Council Grove Elementary School. That's something we've done in the past. Try to wrap it around maybe a tour of the facility and, or maybe some kids doing a presentation or something like that while we're there. So, I don't know, do we have some dates and thoughts?
The only thought that I've heard is like Prairie Heights is maybe in October. It typically, in the past, it had been scheduled like in January, but with winter weather and stuff and everybody having to get up there and stuff, sometimes the roads aren't in best condition, so maybe trying to do one early, before the weather turns, so. Or we could also do it later if around sorry, you just triggered when you said that. Around like if you're looking at student presentations and stuff, October, they've been in for a few months, but if you're wanting students to share up at Prairie Heights, if you wanted to maybe do something in the spring versus the fall to give them the school year to be able to kind of put some things together and then share with you, so. I mean, Council Grove Elementary, if we want to talk about that, then that can be really done any month that you want to do it in and stuff and everything, but.
I guess first off, is that something we want to talk about doing?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay,
I enjoyed it. We went last year.
okay. So, but from what I'm hearing, we're not gonna do it in September.
That's
So-
our R&R and our budget hearing.
Right, well, but my point is, that would give us some time if you wanted to check in with those administrators in those buildings and say, hey, when would be a good time for us to come? And if it is October, we can change it at the September meeting and get up there in October. I think we're flexible enough. But if springtime works better to go to Alta Vista, we can do that, then Patty can have us over for a barbecue afterwards.
Yes.
Yep, I love food.
Nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, does that sound fair? And then we can vote on it next month, and that gives them some input and some time to say when they wanna do that, so. All right, we've had a couple of executive sessions, we need any more? All right, so then good news, by Board of Ed members. Tina Ray, I'll start with you.
I would just like to say that I think that it's really a phenomenal opportunity for our students and our staff to attend our back-to-school nights and get to see not only the changes that have happened in the building over the summer, but a good opportunity to get public in the door. So those are happening this week, and I think that's really exciting.
Okay.
I had a mom who was talking about her son who's in high school and said he was excited about getting into the the classes for college credit, and I think that our school does a pretty good job of directing these students, so it's easier into their next step after they leave, and that was just an example of that, but obviously there's others, but I bring that up as an example.
Okay, Jay?
I think it's really cool that the shop has been, the ag shop has been renovated to the point that it has now. Like, I don't think really anything has been done to it for, at least 25 years, since I was in school, and now that they got the new floor, they got new lockers, they got new welders, it's a really cool thing, it's a really cool resource that helps kids get jobs, like right out of school, and they can, in this area too, it gives them a skill set that they can go to work and have that skill set to go to weld or work metal and work on machines and stuff, and be contributors to our society right out of school. And I think that's a huge deal that we just got fixed and updated.
Okay. Kelsey?
Pretty proud of all the updates, not only in the school, but with the tennis courts and things, and just the feedback from some admin about how hard everybody's worked this summer, and that, there isn't always time off in the summer as some people think. A lot of people are working over the summer to get stuff accomplished and to help our district out and our buildings and keep them safe and updated and clean.
Okay, Patty?
Well, mine is, I think, is just gonna be that I truly appreciate, and I think our communities will too, your message that you sent today, that you're gonna be sending out, and just your communication with us. That is huge for me, and I have so appreciated that. And I think, just your message today, the community is gonna really sincerely appreciate hearing from you on things, and so thank you for doing that. I think it's a great positive change for us.
Jamie?
I think my thing is just the excitement at the new teacher orientation and back to school day when everybody was coming in. There were so many people talking about their excitement for this year, how it just feels different. It's just exciting to hear that staff are all excited. There's changes been made that they're excited for. They're looking forward to it. They weren't, I don't wanna say dreading, because I don't know that anybody dreads it, but just the feeling this year is a really positive one, and that's exciting. And I would say that's mirrored with parents too, because we had our first PTO, PAC meeting for the elementary school last week, and there were more people in attendance at that meeting than I can remember there being in a very long time, if ever. And so just that excitement piece is kind of fun to see.
Okay, and I'll kind of tag into a lot of what was said. I truly appreciate the work that the custodial and maintenance staff has done and how good our stuff looks. I mean, and part of that helps that we've gotten some rain and some cooler temps in the first part of August, but you drive by the elementary school and the playground is still full of grass and it's mowed and weed eated, and all of our facilities look good, and that's gonna set the tone for when our kids come in, because they just, when things look good, they feel good. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Esslinger for coming up to Alta Vista on Saturday to Old Settlers Day. He came up, put his hand in the freezing water for a couple of hours and handed out bottles of water. Don't know that we got him introduced to a lot of people, but got his face out there, and so that's truly appreciated by both people here in town, and I think it was well received in Alta Vista as well. So thank you for being willing to do that. So
It was fun. Cool little event and stuff, good food and yeah, getting to meet a few people, so yeah, it was a lot of fun.
all right, anything else?
We'll have you take a look at that. This is something that we're going to, based on some feedback that Kelsey shared, but this is something that'll come out within the day or two. We'll see how Amber and I get things done, but we're gonna bullet point highlight the board meeting. And so we'll put some things, it might not look exactly like this format, but we're gonna bullet point to highlight the board meeting, and we'll share that out on Facebook and social website and all of those types of things and stuff. So if people are interested in what took place tonight, and they don't have time to watch this or, the other things and stuff, they can go to this and get a quick overview of all the different things that went. So just another way to communicate what's going on in the district and stuff, and that came from feedback.
Great. All right, well, with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
and it says 6, but we've got hearings at 5:30.